Welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome to you from wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a great day and that you will meet all your obstacles with courage and faith. So we're going to talk a little bit more on how does the tarot work and how did I get interested in how the tarot works. And it's going to involve a little bit more, incidentally, Jungian talk, but just very lightly, nothing in depth. I had early on in my tarot experience, I had a question. I asked the tarot a particular question about my life and why something was a certain way in my life. I forget what the question was. And I threw 3 cards. And I didn't care for those cards I threw. I didn't care for the answer I got at all. So I gathered up the cards and I put them to the side and I got a separate deck. And I shuffled the deck, this new deck. I shuffled it and I cut the cards and I asked the same question. And you know what happened? I got the exact same 3 cards. They came out in a different order, but it was the same 3 cards. And I had to start asking myself, what is going on here? I'm generally a man of science and logic. And now I got something, I'm facing something I can't explain. I probably made a big mistake today by not going out and buying a lottery ticket because that was my day. So I started looking into it. I started looking into exactly what's at play here when we use tarot, and this is the answer I came up with. And then this is where the Jungian concepts come up, and they're not too intense. The first one is when I pull a tarot card. There's 78 cards in the deck. When I pull a card, I put a card with a picture comes up, and that's called an archetype. Archetypes exist throughout all humankind, throughout the world. The archetype of the hero, the archetype of the journey, the archetype of the success of meeting the dark forces. And these archetypes are in all human societies throughout the world. These archetypes are also contained to some extent within the tarot deck. So that when I do a tarot reading with somebody, what I'm doing is I'm activating dormant universal archetypes that lay hidden within the recesses of the subconscious. So when you do a tarot reading, even for yourself, you're activating latent universal archetypes which reside within you. So archetypal forces, universal archetypes, is what the pictures on the cards represent, and it's activating that within yourself. The second thing it activates is synchronicity. You know what synchronicity is? Have you ever thought about somebody and have them call you on the phone? That's a synchronistic event. Other synchronistic events are, I remember I had one once where I was applying for a job. It was my first side job as a nurse. And I had the interview, and I go do the interview. And it turns out the woman interviewing me is somebody I knew from a past job when I used to work in mental health. I used to work at a psych hospital. And she was she was the chief of nurses over there, the director of nurses. And she knew me from that past from my past association. And I always had done a good job, and I was also always reliable and appropriate. And then one of the therapists comes by while she's interviewing me, and the therapist comes by, and she pops her head, and she goes, "Oh, hi, John. Oh, yeah, John's a great guy. I always liked John. John was a wonderful guy. I would definitely suggest you hire him. He'd be a great guy to have on staff." So that therapist walked by, and the interview continued, and then another person walked by, and this person was one of my nursing instructors in nursing school. And oh yeah, John, he's a great guy. I definitely would like to recommend John. And all this happened in a short time, and let's say within a 10-minute period. And that's a synchronistic event, where you have unrelated events that have meaning. And the meaning to me was that the higher power of the universe wants me to do this job for a while. So I went ahead and I did the job for a while. But that's a synchronistic event. When we do the tarot cards, we are forcing the universe into a synchronistic event. I'm pulling the cards which are unrelated, And out of that out of those archetypal images, we are producing meaning, and that's a synchronistic event. And these ideas of, that's the only time I'm going to address Jung, these ideas of synchronicity and of archetypes, universal archetypes, are Carl Jung concepts, things that he brought into the nomenclature of the culture of our culture. These are his ideas, although he did not build a tarot. But these were his concepts. That's why every time I turn around, I'm running into this guy. The third thing, why tarot works. So we got synchronicities, we got universal archetypes, and we got cause and effect. Universal cause and effect. Nothing in this world happens by accident. And now I firmly believe that it's karma. Cause and effect might be karma, might be another word for it. If you do negative things, you'll have negative outcomes. I was having how I learned about cause and effect the hard way is when I initially got sober for a year or two. I had all these negative events happen to me, although I was staying within the straight and narrow. I was staying within suggested guidelines. But I realized that every time, as soon as one event would happen and I would clear it up, another event would happen. And they were all things like getting my driver's license back, getting back in school, because I had a terrible academic record from when I was drinking and using, finding some funding for school. And oh, I'm not going to go into that story. But there was always some kind of event. But I realized I didn't get too frustrated because I realized this was all cause and effect. I had led a very colorful life prior to hanging up my guns and coming into a sober lifestyle. And I had created certain effects that needed to work themselves out. And they did, but one at a time. And that was cause and effect. The causes I had created had effects. And sometimes these things happen so far apart that you don't realize, you can't see the causal chain. You can't see how they're connected. But I understood in a general way that these were things that I had done, and these are causes I had created, and these were the effects I was getting. And I just had to write it out. Sure, I got a little frustrated, but I just hung in there, wrote it out, and eventually they all ran clear. Everybody, it was like a dirty faucet, a rusty faucet. If you open it up, first all, it hasn't been opened in many years. You got a bunch of rusty water that runs through it. But eventually the water starts to run clear. And that's how it was in my life. But in terms of tarot, it's cause and effect. Nothing happens in this universe by accident. It's all connected. Everything is connected. We are all connected to each other, to the planet, to the universe. It's all connected. So be careful what you say, be careful what you do. So when we do a tarot reading, we are engaging cause and effect, we are engaging universal archetypes, and we are engaging synchronicities. So let's practice this. Let's give this a try and see what happens. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. I have a pre-written out question. How does the tarot how does tarot use engage such things as synchronicity, archetypes, and cause and effect to make a meaningful exchange? And I'm going to ask the tarot. Okay, I'll do 5. I'll do 5 cards. How does the tarot engage these concepts in order to create meaning? I do 5 cards. How does the tarot engage synchronicity, cause and effect, universal archetypes to create meaning? Let's see what kind of answer I'm going to get from this, and we'll wrap this up. How does the tarot engage these things in order to produce meaning? I'll give it a little shuffle. All right, cut the deck, and let's see what we get. First card is the 3 of Swords. Usually the 3 of Swords has to do with disappointment. Oh, things didn't work out the way you had hoped to, a broken heart. The tarot uses, that's, for me to be asking that question, that's me in terms of where the question is. that I have been wounded or hurt or disappointed, and I'm looking for answers. And that's how you're generally going to start on the journey, the fool's journey with this type of thing. You're hurt, you're wounded, you're looking for answers. And the tarot is going to engage that part of you. Difficulties or obstacles along this path. How is this going to reveal to me? So the Lovers. The Lovers card has to do with relationship. It has to do with not only relationship, it has to do with you see a man. And this is a difficult thing to do with tarot because you're making a connection with things out sometimes larger than yourself. So the man is in relationship with a woman who's in relationship. I think that's the archangel. I think it's Michael. What that really is a man in communication with the subconscious. The subconscious is in communication with the superconscious. And that is how the tarot engages you. It understands that. And it's a difficult concept to explain. And you have to work at it a little bit before you're able to have that connection with the superconsciousness. Superconsciousness, you might call it universal consciousness, right? Now, how it's going to reveal messages to you. It takes a little practice, but it works through that chain, the superconsciousness, the subconscious to the conscious. In the past, the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups is a nurturing caregiver. The tarot is a nurturing caregiver in terms of this reading. How does it do it? It looks after you. It brings you along slowly. It will help you to grow, but you have to do the work. The tarot does not want you to become dependent. Like every question I have in my life, I refer to the tarot. It's not the way it is, not the way I do it. When I have things, though, that I can't work out for myself or that I have different questions about, I do refer to the tarot. And the tarot, being the nurturing caregiver, will help provide me direction. But I don't use, but it prevents me from becoming dependent. Some people have a problem with symbolic systems. They become overly dependent. And when I ask the symbolic system about every question that comes in your life, the goal of the tarot is to help you grow and help you mature as a human being so that you are not dependent upon the tarot itself. And then the Five of Wands. What is helping? I'll show the card. Five of Wands. What is helping? There's competition. Sometimes there's chaos, and it's the chaos that is confusing that makes me come to the tarot sometimes to ask for guidance, to ask for insight, to ask for a different way to look at these things. So sometimes even the negative things in your life help you grow. And I've talked about this in terms of the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic idea of severity and mercy. Severity is the problem, and then mercy is the answer to the problem. Severity is the chaos. Mercy is the answer. Why do I have this chaos? And then you get the answer to mercy. And that is sometimes what happens with the tarot. And then my final card, what can I expect? What can you expect? Grace, the Nine of Pentacles. You're going to have a much more graceful, peaceful life. The tarot is going to give you some answers. It's going to give you some minor senses of security that you know you're always going to have somewhere trusted to get a trusted opinion. And it's going to show in your life because you're going to become a little bit calmer, a little bit more dependable. And people are going to wonder, how did John become so calm? How did John become so serene? And that's the card of the Nine of Pentacles, the card of grace. Because the Nine of Pentacles, that's somebody who's worked very hard to get where they are in life. The tarot will lead you through that, but it's going to take work, and you're going to have to work real hard. And a lot of people aren't going to see the work that you're doing, but you're going to grow as a result. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today. What do we have here?
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
It was my pleasure. Tune in. Join me next time for another tarot adventure. Next time I have something I'm going to talk about where I'm going to leave it for next time, but I created a symbolic field for meaning to appear, and I'm going to explain that. So be careful, be cool, be kind, and remember, have courage, find faith, and I'll talk to you next time. All right, bye-bye.